Hello everybody, and we're here with another session, this time with Ron Brentnall. Ron has an illustrious Premier cricket career and also a fabulous career in sub-district. Ron played in one of the most successful eras in the club. So welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Lee. It's an honour.
Tell us about how you got down to Northcote and later to Fitzroy.
Yes, I had played sub-district cricket, Lee, from age 16 to about 19 at Ivanhoe, 4 seasons at Ivanhoe, which I found was a really good preparation, training ground to play district cricket. And I think that may be a word of advice for young players not to go to district clubs too soon. I think I certainly gained by playing against experienced players in sub-district cricket. So I was about 20 when I got to Northcote.
And you went there as a batter, an all-rounder?
I told them I was an all-rounder, although I hadn't hardly bowled. Anyway, I managed to get some wickets in the seconds and so forth, and eventually got into the side in about the third year as a bowler who could bat. But it turned out the following year I was opening the batting and opened for about 8 years, 7 or 8 years in the first.
Northcote had some fabulous players. Bill Laurie, of course, so you would have played a lot with Laurie. Also, you played with Wayne Robinson, who went on to coach Preston, and you played with Wayne. Tell me, who was the best bowler you played with at Northcote?
The best bowler was probably Gary Liming at the time.
Yeah.
Hurt his back when his career was just starting to launch. Rodney Hogg was a better bowler later on, but Hogg and Living were pretty close. Living moved the ball around a bit more at the same pace, Hoggy. Those two were a terrific pair of bowlers.
Been fun in the nets every Tuesday and Thursday night against them, Ron.
Best batsman, if you ask me who the best, but Laurie's obviously the best player. Wayne Robinson, Preston player, and also Ross McKenzie, who coached Preston. So Wayne Robinson, Ross McKenzie and I all played in a Premiership side in 73-4 and all subsequently played at Preston, both Ross and Wayne captaining Preston. So there's been a strong link between Northcote and Preston. And of course, Jerry Dowling, who a young player came up through Preston and ended up playing for Victoria. So it's a good link, and I hope Preston maintains that link. So
you played there for 8 years, went to Fitzroy for 2 years, and then gave Premier cricket away and went to Ivanhoe, where you coached there for 2 years.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we won't talk about the opposition too much there, but a very good club nonetheless. How did you get to Preston in 82, 83?
Well, obviously my relationship and friendship went back a long way with Wayne Robinson. He was probably the main factor. And so, with Wayne being there, and I knew a few other guys at Preston, I came across.
You came across 82, 83, and then went on to play 163 games. 2 years later, you're the club champion, 84, 85, which is a fantastic honour. You finished up winning the bowling average 87, 88 and 88, 89 consecutive years, taking 35 and 45 wickets at 14 and 11. When you got into sub-district cricket, Ron, particularly with your bowling, how did you approach the slow wickets that were presented back in those days? Well,
from a batting perspective, it didn't suit my game. I was more of a deflector, I'd have to say. The quicker the bowler, the better it suited me. So I didn't say it naturally helped. From a bowling perspective, the other thing with Preston is, of course, you had an outfield where if you hit the ball on the ground, you'd be lucky to get 2 in those days. And I think how many more runs the good batsmen like Rowan Purple would have made had the outfield been like it is today. Anyway, that's off the track a bit. From a bowling perspective, there was a change in pitch. I forget exactly what happened, but they introduced a new form of couch in about the years I started to get some wickets, and it certainly gave a bit more incentive to a spin bowler. Batley got more bounce and you got a little bit more turn, albeit slow. But it certainly helped the bowling I was bowling. And like Dave Jeffrey, I just bowled at the stumps and always had an outfielder, and that produced a lot of wickets. They tried to hit the ball on the bigger grounds at Preston. I got a lot of wickets at long on. I was fortunate at Preston too, from a bowling perspective, to have a very good captain, Neil Kilpatrick, who set good fields. He was very stubborn, so you could never really get the field you exactly wanted, but more often than not, he was proved correct. But very fortunate at Preston to have terrific, brave bat patters, Dave Robinson and Steve Harvey, and there's possibly others that I can, but those two really stand out. I know Steve Harvey really put his body on the line, so did Dave, and took a lot of knocks. But also Steve took about 13 catches, I think, in 1 year from bat pads. And the method was to put pressure on the batsmen by crowding them from the start. And that was a ploy that I don't see enough of today in district or sub-district or Premier cricket and sub-district, where you actually apply pressure from the outset. And it becomes a mind game then. If you get a new batsman in and you can crowd him from the start, it's a way of getting wickets and changing the game.
In the late 80s and the early 90s, that was probably, 5 or 6 years, the most successful era in the history of the club, where we were always in the finals, played off in grand finals, lost a few and won a few, and won 2 championships, 91, 92, 92, 93. When you look back at the team that you had through that period, I know there would have been some changes from year to year, but the bulk of the team was pretty much the same. Just tell us a little bit about those teams that played.
Yeah, we were clearly the best side, I believe, in the association for 3 to 5 years. In the 12 years I played, we made the finals in 9 years. But yeah, the characteristics of that side were good leadership. We had some terrific Sri Lankan boys, Ravi Ratnayaka and Rowan Porpalai. Rowan, the best player I've seen as a batsman in sub-district cricket in that era. We also had terrific young players in Steve Harvey, Scott Harvey, Ashley Robinson. There was a terrific side, Jeff King. There's others that I should recall, but we also had great competitors like Dale Carpenter. Used to love bowling with Dale, you could rely on him to dry up one end. And I thought in those last few years that we bowled very well in tandem together, just denying opposition runs and putting pressure and making it hard for them to score, and then allowing the Ravis and so forth to, break the back of the batting. I thought we were as good as probably the weaker district sides in that era with Rowan and Ravi. What
was the best hand you saw Rowan play?
Oh, goodness. He got runs in finals. I can't remember. There's been so many of them. There's a number of innings. We had to work so hard for his runs. I think he got 100 or several hundreds at Preston on outfield. Yeah. It was so slow, but he had the ability to hit the ball well enough to either clear the field and get boundaries. But he was a brilliant player and a very consistent player. And other clubs tried to pinch him, but he was a very loyal guy, Rowan, and really put back into the club. And he certainly turned the club around when he joined the club. It was our batting that was our weakest point. And of course, Eddie Rutenfeld. Let's not forget Eddie. I had the great pleasure to play with Eddie Rutenfeld for a decade. It was a pleasure to play him. In fact, I used to drive him to most of the games.